The call ended up happening at 8:30 this morning, and we actually received two different calls for a check the welfare, which is a very typical call, of a red Honda being parked in the 1200 block Northwest 3rd with a suspect inside of it. This individual was asleep, but obviously the citizens calling the call in didn't know whether he was, intoxicated or maybe there was something wrong with him medically. But they did mention that they saw a handgun in his lap. So officers did go over there and they proceeded with caution. There was more than one officer that approached the vehicle. They saw the gun. They made contact with the suspect. The suspect, who was later identified as 23-year-old Justin Brown, who my understanding is that he was living in Stillwater until here recently. The suspect refused to comply with the officer's orders. They tried to get him to give up, to comply. He did not. Instead, he put his vehicle in drive and fled from officers. Initially, the pursuit went on the south side of Oklahoma City, but quickly turned around and went north. The suspect was driving very erratically. Luckily, there wasn't a whole lot of traffic. This was just a little bit after rush hour, really. So he was all over the place. I mean, that's the best way I can put it. He was hitting curves. He was zigzagging back and forth. He got up to the speed of about approximately 60 miles an hour. But during the time that he was doing this, he was displaying this weapon, pointing it out the window, shooting up in the air, shooting back at officers. So this really changed the game a little bit for us. We have very strict policies when in regards to pursuits. We can only have a couple officers involved, a managing supervisor, but this really changed all the rules for us, because this was a person who was violent. This was a person who was being reckless with a firearm. We did not know what his intentions were. Just before he left the scene, he actually made a suicidal statement to the officers, something along the lines of, you're going to have to kill me or I'm going to kill myself today, something along those lines. So obviously a very, very scary situation for everybody involved. So we continued to pursue. The pursuit went north to Penn Square Mall, at which time he went into the parking lot and actually hit at least one vehicle in there, still pointing the gun at police officers, pointing the gun at citizens, and shooting at the officers. At least one of our cars was hit, but luckily none of the officers were actually hit themselves. At this point, it was very important for the officers to keep him out of the mall, and really that was the main concern, is to not allow this guy to go mobile by foot and get into either the mall or one of the 15 stores that is along that boulevard just east of the mall. So we did not allow him to do that, but honestly we were prepared to do whatever it took to keep him from going in there, because we feared that he was going to go in there to hurt somebody, to kill somebody, and maybe kill himself. He continued on east and ended up wrecking out in front of a Subway into a container. The airbag deployed allowed the officers enough time so they can close in on the suspect and get him into custody. So at this point, this person is facing various charges, and it is an open investigation. He is facing, at the very least, assault with a deadly weapon, multiple counts, pointing a firearm at another, multiple counts, and felony attempting to elude. We are asking for the public, for anybody who may have been the victim of one of these crimes, either today or before, to call the homicide tip line at 297-1200.